everyone! So, my name is Pyra Draculea. I guess I was gonna say if you're on my channel you know that, but who knows? There's a random chance somebody might share this to people who don't know who the hell I am. So, I am a cartoonist, I guess. I do a lot of cartooning. And I thought it would be fun to throw my hat into the Vlogmas ring. So what we have here is a little blue line, non-photo blue. Hang on, let me reach across. You see the back of my head. I use a non-photo blue, which is a underneath. It's kind of a traditional comics process to do that. In the olden days, these wouldn't show up in theory. If you Xeroxed, you drew that and then you inked with black ink over top, this would vanish and yada yada yada. I'm sure there's other videos out there. Maybe if I'm bored someday I'll make one. So anyways, we've got a Bristol board now, paper. Now this is Canson XL recycled Bristol. It's a little, I'm used to the Vellum Smooth by Strathmore, so this has some texture in it. We'll see if this screws me up or not. You can see a little yellow dot from where I had a false start with a nib that didn't really want to work. It was too scratchy, so I started over again. Well, didn't start over again, but I started the video over again. So, did I already say this is Noah Thorsen, the main character for my webcomic, Noah's Archipelago. And I'm going to be doing Vlogmas. I'm going to try to do a video every day from now until Christmas. Alternating characters. I was going to say alternate. Well, they're cartoons of characters. I guess that's why I was trying to say alternating cartoons of characters from. I have two comic projects. One is Noah's Archipelago, and the other is Ricky B. the Rock and Roll Rat. Although you would be forgiven for thinking Ricky B. the Rock and Roll Rat is actually a podcast, because it is. But it started as a cartoon, and there is a graphic novel underway. So, anyways. And doing the characters in various holiday themes. Now, when I look at my viewfinder, you can't really see the underdrawing, so it may just emerge as we go, although I really see that yellow dot. But what we're going to do is, I might as well start drawing while I'm talking. Uh-oh, come on. Am I going to have, like, attack the lazy nibs? Ah, there we go. Oh, that's an unpleasant sound, isn't it? As you can possibly guess, from a bit of the snafu there, I mean, I do draw old style with a dip pen, but usually not. This is a brand new set of nibs. I usually just black and white. I'm hoping that scratchy sound is like ASMR or whatever, because I find it irritating. Anyways, normally I do just black and white, and for Noah's Archipelago, this is actually something I do on my iPad. We may be having technical issues here with the drawing board, because the ink wants to run back into the nib instead of out onto that. So this could be interesting. Or I'm going to have to hold my hand in weird ways and block what I'm doing, and that's no good either. Right now I'm starting with the background, so I'm just going to add some like Christmas bauble type of things. It's kind of hard for me to see what I'm doing. Although it's kind of going. I'm also filming this on my iPhone, so there will be a real version that will be very zoomed in, and that definitely, even right now, you can see that, because basically the iPhone is right here. Oh, can you see the corner of it? I think you can. Okay. Well, there's your showbiz magic, right? What it amounts to is, I figured I'd do a longer Draw With Me Vlogmas version, in which case we don't want to inflict vertical video on people that way for long periods of time. But I also wanted to do a reel. I was like, well, I could just be lazy and film it twice, and then I have half the editing. That's not how the math works, though, is it? No, it's not. twice the footage, twice the editing, but I'm pretending that it's half because, you know, I'm bad at math, I think is what it amounts to. So we've got some little yellow baubles here. Now he is holding up a ball of mistletoe. If I'm recalling correctly, I think mistletoe is actually little white dots, so I guess I leave those and don't fill them in yellow. So whatever this calligraphy dip pen there, acceptable. I think I'm going to try a different nib. These are the cheap-ass ones you get at Home Sense, or I guess in the States they're called Home Goods. We're going to go... Ah, there's the ticket. Okay, so I don't know how well this will show up when I hold these in front of the camera. But if I do that, oh yeah, you can sort of see. So you see where there's the little dippy? But when I'm holding it up onto a drawing board that's at an angle, all the ink is going into the dippy and not... It needs to go out, right? This style, I'll grab the fattest one. If you can see, has like a little metal thingy that traps the ink under it. In theory, this may use capillary action to get it out even on an angle. We'll find out if that theory is correct. I would not be surprised if it's wrong. But we're going to muddle through it and figure out technical difficulties tomorrow. Just because otherwise I have to figure out a way to get the camera up, and then it's a down angle, and it's a whole thing, right? Easy on the cell phone, not good. Easy on this. So anyways, we're going to have some little background colors. Excuse my reach. Let's grab this is incandescent rose gold, and do this because my inks tend to sit and they'll separate right out. So we got like, it's kind of rusty but pinky. Well, I mean, I just said it's rose gold, but, you know, rose gold can have different implications depending. And I've got a little palette that's right down here. You pull that up. I don't have it full of much yet, but you can see, just because with these eyedropper bottles, it would be a major pain in the ass to... When I'm not filming, honestly, what I do is I use one hand, hold the dropper out, stick the pen right in the bottle, or the nib right in the bottle, and then do it that way, but that would be a little bit awkward. Is this going to give me technical difficulties too? It might. I may, for future ones, I may need to do this a little differently and not at as steep an angle. Yeah, because I'm getting where it's not wanting to come down. It's funny, these are traditional, the kind of nibs that cartoonists traditionally used, and you traditionally did it on a desk that was at an angle, so somehow the ink must eventually decide to cooperate and come down. Somehow, not today, that's fine, we'll call that, we're calling it bloopers as we go, right? Did I mention, I used to do somewhat similar style of art like 20 years ago, but it was all done flat and not on camera. So, anyways, when I post the real version or the YouTube short version of this, you won't hear me doing any of this. It'll just be super sped up, the whole drawing will happen in like 41 seconds. So it's short enough for Twitter, and there'll be Christmas music, so you won't hear any of that scratchy stuff. So now let's get some lime green. This is dollar roundy. Why can't I talk this morning? Oh yeah, because it's morning. This is kind of a slightly iridescent green liquid acrylic. You know, honestly, what I should probably do is just use a brush. It's probably not a good thing when you're... I have that picked up where the dropper went... Anyways, it was a little dried and plugged inside, but now it's fine. Everything's fine. There's some South Park. I don't remember where there's a dude doing that. So let's try and do some little spirally thingies in the background. Why am I starting with the background? It's the most boring part. Yeah, but then it can be drying and... well, actually, I was going to say, then it can be drying and I won't smudge it as I go over. I realized, wait a minute. I'm right-handed. I'm working in this area. I'm going to be really out having to watch it that I don't drag my fingers over the background as I go. So perhaps on the next one we will start with a figure and then work in the background, eh? So I can do... well, you can see what I'm doing. My pinky is resting on his face, so gotta be careful with that. So, Noah, in case people... well, actually, I should just assume... well, it's hard to say. Excuse me, I was going to say, in case you don't know who he is, and I was going to say, well, most people wouldn't know who he is, and that's like, but anybody... probably most people who are going to watch my video will, maybe? People who follow Noah's Archipelago on Facebook, or, you know, my friends, or people who can't stand me are like, what is that idiot up to this week? But anyways, I was going to say most people probably would be knowing who Noah is watching this video, but maybe not. So, I think I'm going to keep the background fairly simple like that, and I'm not just saying that because of technical snafus and trying to figure this out, and because my phone is in my face and I can't see what I'm doing. Let's start coloring in his little booties, his little elf shoes. Anyways, so Noah's Archipelago is a webcomic that I do, that I started in July of 2022. So what it was is I was doing a YouTube show called The Nick White Show, which I honestly had barely started at that point. And it was kind of like a comedy of the second most famous rock star of the 80s who had never had a #1 hit single, but was still playing arenas, and he's like all the stereotypes, like all the levels of scumbaggery is Nick White. And I'll post a link in the description to some of that stuff. I'll warn you, it's pretty crude, because Nick fulfills all the stereotypes, right, of an 80s rock star. So, swish that out as I'm cleaning my brush kind of off camera and therefore not showing much. Anyway, so the way I did it was I had a whole bunch of dolls, like Barbie dolls and Barbie accessories. I made little sets and all this, and I would write the script, and then I would record in Pro Tools all the voices. You know, like, oh, Nick White talks like this, except I pitched him down 3 not 3 decibels, that's how loudness. No, you know, I pitched him down 3 semitones, darling. Anyways, so I would do that, and then I had all these other voices that I did. So it would be like a radio play, like podcast, but then I would have the dolls and film the dolls and whatnot. And again, I'll put a link in case anyone wants to see. Just be aware, it's very, very kind of crude and vile, disgusting show. And if you think Bono is Jesus, don't watch the Nick White Show, because Nick hates Bono. Professional rivalry, you see, and Nick thinks that that Bono personally is the one who has stopped him from having #1 hits over the years. So, but he's always trying to outdo Bono, and he says many rude things that are not very nice about Bono, because, you know, that's who Nick is. Anyways, got a new bottle. This is like a olive green, again, FW. So we'll see if this one's dropper goes splat, makes a farting noise. Well, if I can get it off the bottle. Holy crap! Some of these are a little gummy. Well, like I said, this is the kind of art I was making 20 years ago. Oh, the dropper is... This dropper ain't going to make a farting sound because it's completely blocked out. That's fine. I'm just going to swish it around and... Oh man, this is bad. I don't want to try and pour ink here because then we may have a complete disaster on our hands, but I'm going to have to do that just a little. Hang on. There we go. I had to stop talking because you can't talk and pour ink at the same time. At least I can't. I'm going to put the lid back on so it can stick and glue and make it even worse for the future. Anyways, so I was doing the Nick White show. And the one problem is if you do the voices, and this is something that will apply to my Ricky B. Rat project. Yeah, that's, work for the mistletoe. Never mind, I'm talking to myself. Let's see what I just say about putting my hand down, but that's okay. That's where the text is and the yellow is dry. So, because I was doing the voices, I started production on that show. Like, I'd been writing it for a couple of years, and then I'm talking about a character that I'm not drawing, but I guess it's kind of important background, I think. Anyways, so 2022, I did a few episodes, and then I had just finished a trilogy, Nick's Ukrainian Adventure, which is after Bono and Edge went to Ukraine right after the war started, and they, like, did a concert at a subway station and all this sort of, you know. I could make comments, but I won't. They went to there, and then the idea being that Nick heard about this, and he wants the publicity from that sort of thing, but, you know, as he put it to one of the other characters, I'm not going to a war zone. I could be killed, or worse, disfigured. So anyways, he decides he's going to fake it. So he like auditions, and he has no idea anything about Ukraine. He thinks that's where... He thought Ukraine was the big island in Hawaii where they invented the ukulele. Anyway, so he has no idea. One of the guys from the booby bar next to Nick's studio offers to direct this Ukraine video well, not for free, but for a few bottles of whiskey to make sure that the public has the right idea about Nick. You could probably guess that Nick should have asked more questions about what that meant, but he didn't. Anyways, and it's a total gong show. I think it's a hilarious little trilogy, but you may find it disgusting. It's kind of disgusting and hilarious. And then the finished video is shown to, like, Nick's manager, and she's not impressed and all this. Blah, blah, blah. So that was... I finished that, and then, like, as I was working on the next episode, and... Excuse me, but I'll take a little sippy sip of sparkling water, and then hopefully this doesn't make me burp. It probably will. Anyways, so I'm getting ready to film like a 4th of July episode, and that is when I got sick. I got the coof. Let me see. Yeah, I'm gonna do Noah's shirt in this like pink pearly kind of color, because Noah likes satin shirts and he likes them big and loose and billowy. So here we go. And then I can use some of this color as shadows, maybe. Anyways, so I was getting ready to do a 4th of July episode. I got sick. I think it was the coof. I didn't, like, take any tests, because I didn't have a COVID test on me. And it's like, well, I'm not leaving my house if I think I have that in order to go and get a stupid test. I just, like, hung out inside, you know. See, it did make me burp a little. Sorry. Excuse me. I was able to do that, and then my dad, like, dropped off groceries when needed and all that. So I stay home, but I lost my voice for, like, 2 weeks. Some of you are probably already going, like, you've only been talking for, I don't know. Well, I've probably been talking for 20 minutes at this point. Some people are probably going to hear that and go, oh, thank God, could you lose it again? Okay, this. But I think I am going to have to. Yeah. And I swear this is the part where Noah actually comes into play, and I'm going to run over and to my stash right to the left here. Over here I have some brushes, and I'm going to grab one, but I'm going to keep talking. Probably louder because I'll pretend like suddenly when I go a foot away, no one can hear me. Random brushes. So anyways, where was I going with this? So I lost my voice, which meant that I could not do the Nick White show certainly for that particular period of time. But here's the thing, I got my regular speaking voice back, but I didn't get my cartoon voice back for ages. Like, this was the end of June, last week of June. We're going to be all sloppy and use a kind of spread out brush because it's a cheap one I don't care about as much as my other watercolor brushes, because this is actually acrylic. Anyways, so all summer, like, I didn't do the next episode of the Nick White show after that. That's so much better. Why didn't I just start with a brush? I just have to make sure this isn't dribble. Anyways, I could not do my Nick White voices until October. So that was the next episode of the Nick White show was When Nick's Away, which I put out in mid-October. I mean, I was able to start doing the voices, but not consistently. Like, I'd get like 2 sentences out and then be in a coughing fit for 5 minutes type of thing. Even well after I felt perfectly normal aside from that. So, anyways, point is, then I needed a project, right? I always need to have a project. And I had been toying with the idea of doing like a puppet show. And it was going to be like a rock and roll news show originally. These kind of... It was... Actually, Noah was not the main character. That Noah's... Who turned out to be Noah's former bandmate and frenemy, Glenn. We'll see him later in Vlogmas. Glenn was going to be the main character as a Muppet-style puppet, and then I just kind of making snarky remarks about rock and roll gossip and, who has a new album and all this sort of stuff. Who's going back to rehab, if we're talking about 80s rock stars. No names mentioned, but one of them may be a drummer who has done sex tapes. Or, pardon me, I was told the official line is that sex tape was stolen out of his house. And supposedly the vault was built into the wall and covered with carpet. There's an old Adam Carolla show, if you want to find it, if you know who I'm talking about. It is hilariously stupid that we're expected to believe any of this bullshit. More sparkling water. Anyways, so that's looking better. I kind of like that. It's very rough, but here we go. So now I'm going to add in a little bit of shadows. Anyway, so Glenn was going to be on here, and it was going to be a Muppet. That's why we got... Oh, I may not show yet. We got the big bug eyes. You'll see them when I get there, to his little face. And originally a very wide mouth and all that was kind of because that's what Muppets look like, and these guys were going to be kind of Muppet style. And I had this notion about maybe I would end up making some like rock star special guest type of thing in the show. And then I remembered I always hate that trope when it's on other shows. It's so stupid, and it's always usually it's excuse so that the writers of the show can like meet Bono or Bon Jovi or whoever their favorite rock star is. Like, I'll write a special episode and then I get to have a selfie with the guy. or the gal. But anyway, so that's, if I'm going to do this with a brush, I think the future ones are going to be on watercolor paper. Because I can see, I don't know if it shows up in the camera, but where I've done that, the paper is doing this, right? This is going to be so much fun when I'm making those hand gestures and speeding it up on the real version. I guess it probably happens so fast that won't make sense, that it'll just kind of pass by, but if it doesn't go fast enough, it'd be able, why is she like stopping to randomly wave her hand around? Did I say there'd be less editing for these? Delusional. So anyways, I was planning about Glenn and all this, and in the course of that, I kind of brainstormed. Let me do, which red? Do we want scarlet or do we want... Oh, that's also scarlet. They look like different colors to me. Maybe not. Anyways, FW scarlet. So it dawned on me when I was brainstorming who is Glenn and all this. It's like, he looks like a dude who would play like in like an Aerosmith tribute band at the local bar. So then I brainstormed from that, and I thought, well, you know, I actually, years ago, I knew a dude who played in, not an Aerosmith tribute, but other tribute bands. Ooh, that one's, ooh. We are screwed. That's a good thing I have another bottle of Scarlet. Don't leave your art supplies sitting out too long. Things happen. This one, the other bottle. Oh, shit. They both did that. That's okay. That's okay. It's okay. Did you hear that farty noise? That was not me. That was the bottle. Now can I get the whole thing? There we go. Hallelujah. Now I gotta screw it back down. I'm narrating this because my hand's probably in the way. Ta-da! Okay. Anyways, what was I saying? I was talking about Glenn. So, and I knew a dude who played in, local bar band, tribute bands. And so I thought, well, that would be an interesting world to kind of explore. So, now we're finally, after what, half an hour of me blathering, now we're getting to the point where Noah comes into play. Because I envisioned that Glenn, I envisioned some of the guys Glenn would know. And I would say when I was very briefly, like for 2 days, considering doing like guest rock stars, I had kind of a visual idea for like a Bon Jovi puppet and like an Axl Rose puppet and a Bono puppet. So this is going to come into play. Don't dribble. I mean it, don't dribble. See, if you yell at your art, it actually sort of obeys you, not really. Anyways, so I had an idea for a Bono puppet, and then what ended up happening is, I decided not to do guest characters because that would be too much extra work. But I had the mental picture of this Bono puppet. So when I decided not to do it that way, or not to do guests, but it was, as it evolved, it was going to be more and more about, like, Glenn was trying to do a music news, gossipy sort of show, but he would constantly be interrupted by his woman Gigi, and then I was kind of brainstorming, because Gigi would be gossiping about the neighbors or about the Kardashians or whatever, and he'd kind of never get around to the point of the show that he wanted to do. Here we go. Rest his hand on a little something. But I also thought about, well, now we're going to start developing other characters, like who are they going to be gossiping about? So I thought about a local scene rival. And at first the dude didn't have a name, but that became Noah. It was going to be the guy who sings in the local U2 tribute band, i.e. so I could recycle the Bono puppet idea. And then was going to be, okay, Gigi has a thing for this dude. And then I brainstormed and I came up, realized his name was Noah. I don't know why, but that was his name. And Thorsen. And all these other details about Noah. So we got his outfit done. Now it's time to see what browns I have, because Noah's hair is multicolored. So this is sepia. Anyways, so then as I developed the character, and then I realized, you know, if you're writing any sort of comedy, well, I assume it applies to drama too. I just don't care about that. But you want to always make your most interesting character the main character, generally speaking. So, and I realized that Noah was more interesting and more developed than Glenn. You know, Noah had been married 5 times and had, at that point he was supposed to have had all these sort of kids and all that. That ended up changing. So it then became kind of all about Noah Thorsen. And then, excuse me while I go through and try to figure out, it's kind of orange, I think. But, yeah, I'm doing this off camera, so it's orange, but I'm going to try to mix darker brown. Opposites on the color wheel, so if I take the orange and I add a little bit of, what is this? Well, that's neutral gray. Anyway, so point is I developed all this stuff about Noah, and is that the one I just put down? Is the CP I just put down? What is this? This is burnt umber. Yeah, there we go. So where there's a rivalry and blah 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 blah. So then it became about Noah, and then I did start. There's the nib I was looking for earlier in amongst the bottles. So I started kind of focusing more on Noah. Trying to get this thin enough that it actually reads as gray and not black. And then I kind of realized, because I had the more and more complicated ideas about setting and where to do this, and I realized I was in terms of like any sort of puppet stuff, because I am not a puppeteer, that I was quickly getting in over my head. But by this point, I love the characters and the world and all this sort of stuff. This is all still during the summer when I couldn't really talk. And again, some of you are probably listening going like, oh, could that happen again? Anyways, so I started having all these ideas and kind of going like, this is going to be way too awkward. But I realized that, well, it was not so much realistic to think that I could do it as a puppet show. I could draw pretty much anything that I could come up with, even if it's badly. Oops, a little bit of a spill of... I've got a water thing over there, and that just spilled, so hang on a moment. We'll be calling the, well, I was going to say hazmat, but hazmat in terms of the table. So anyways, Noah became the main man, and I had done like it was like 16-page little mini comic called Noah's Ark, which talked about all the kids, right? And the various wives and all that. But the thing is, it all kind of felt a little off. He was kind of, in that cartoon, kind of more of a douchebag. Now, some of you who have read Noah's Archipelago might say he's still a douchebag. Yeah, but he was like a scuzzier douchebag. in that. So it wasn't feeling accurate to how the character was really kind of felt. Like, it's almost like the character, he didn't want to be a douchebag, but anyways, like, start sounding kooky when I'm like, hey, let your characters talk to you and tell you who they really are. But you kind of should. Anyways, so what was kind of developing was he was a little more of like a fun-loving dude and all that. And I had a printmaking class at Machosin International Summer School for the Arts, which happens sort of outside of Victoria usually every summer. So I did a bunch of prints of Noah, and I didn't tell anyone in the class anything about him, just, this is a character I'm working with. And let them kind of tell me their impressions of him based on the drawings. So, and their impressions were all like, yeah, he's a fun-loving guy, he's loving his life. And it's like, yeah, that's who he actually is, not the little scuzzy dude that I was kind of trying to write. And then also that was kind of making him too much like a replacement for Nick White. It's like, well, I already have a character like that. Anyways, blah, blah, blah. So I started the cartoon. Noah's Ark, I have deep sixed that, so it would probably never be put out. But we did keep, that's why, for example, his kids with Ruth are Ursula and Valerie, because of a joke in that. And then Adam is his first one, and then Duke. And what I kind of, by the time I deleted the Noah's Ark story, I'm just looking over, is there any other color I want to add? No, because I don't have a flesh tone. I don't feel like trying to mix one. You know what? I'm going to use the brush and put some color into the background. Let's start with a kind of a icy blue. Yeah. It's not incandescent. Iridescent. Close enough. Anyways, so I'd already had mention in one of the comics I'd posted on Facebook. There was reference to that Noah's wife Ruth was stepmother number 4 for Adam, and at that point Adam wasn't really getting along so well with Ruth. And then his other younger son, Duke, from a different marriage, there's like a thing where it was actually when Queen Elizabeth passed and Charles became king, and then Noah's kind of having this fantasy about being the king of England, and if he was the king, and making some references about that. And then Duke doesn't say anything, but he has this little thought bubble where it says, oh yes, the 5 wives of King Noah the First. So that was kind of where that went. So it was already kind of on record that Ruth is the 5th wife. So the idea then, as I saw it, was kind of, well, he is married, and then I kind of went through. It's like, okay, so Gigi, who I mentioned before, Gigi is his first wife. That's Adam's mother. And they were high school sweethearts. She got knocked up at home after the homecoming game, so he did the right thing. He married her, but the marriage didn't last. And then he ended up having a fling and impregnating cocktail waitress at his favorite bar. That's Duke's mom. Did the right thing. The marriage didn't last. His 3rd wife, Denise, has actually shown up in the comic. Gigi sometimes shows up in the comic, but not very often. And 3rd wife, see that? Yeah. This is a more transparent, darker green. Let's see how it ends up working. Anyways, the 3rd wife is Denise, and she's a Vegas showgirl that Noah married while drunk, and while she was broken up with her man Simon and trying to make him jealous. So that really, it was like an instant annulment type of thing, like wake up the next morning. But they stayed friends, and Ruth occasionally gets very like unreasonably jealous and insecure about Denise. So, anyways, so there's that. There was a fourth wife. We never really talk about her, but there were no kids. And then Noah, once upon a time, when he was singing in a tribute band, a Marilyn Manson tribute band, he saw this girl from across the room. Well, girl, I mean, she would have been in her 20s and he would have been in his 30s. And it was love at first sight for Noah, but not so much for Ruth. She hauled off and slapped him. And that there is a comic about that where the daughter Ursula is asking, how did you and mommy meet? And Noah's explaining about, you know, I asked your mommy to dance on stage with me for a very naughty song, but she slapped me silly instead. There will eventually be a comic discussing how they got from the whoosh to happily ever after, but yeah. Leave that. I think that's enough for the background. Anyways, so Ruth is the one. They've been together for, well, Ursula's 8, so over 10 years. That does mean that for once he married he married a baby mama before she was a baby mama. But anyways, so there's that, and then that's how the comic kind of proceeds from there. So I think we are done for that part. You know, let me get up so there will be creaking chair noises, because I'm going to go and... Actually, I'm going to pause the video here because I want to wash all this stuff off my palette before it like dries and solidifies, so hang on. Alright, went and did that, and yes, the stuff stained. So, now we're on to Speedball India ink. I'm going to try a dip pen again. I do have a narrow brush if I have to, but we'll see how this goes. Now, I guess I was talking about Noah and Ruth and all that. So we'll meet Ruth later on in the month in Vlogmas, because what I'm going to do is Ricky B. Rat, my other comic project, and Noah will kind of alternate. So, anyway, it's not running up. Nope, that's not going to work. Okay, well, brush it is. Once I clean the crud out of this one, because it worked. I don't want to gum up this. Don't want to gum up this pen, because that's the one I use for inking on a graphic novel project I'm doing. So, that's the wrong brush. Teeny tiny little brush, 10/0, very, very tiny. Here. So, and this is probably going to ruin this brush, but there we go. Anyway, so we will meet the other characters. It's a little fatter than I wanted the line, but here we go. And yes, I actually do shut up when I do lettering. Otherwise I start writing what I'm saying. Anyways, so point is where I don't even remember. This is going to be a bit of a gong show, and I'm actually going to even say that, because usually I don't draw and talk at the same time, and this is why. But anyways, so we've had a bit of an overview of Noah and where he came from and all that. And I did keep the bit where he plays, or where he sings in a U2 tribute band. So we still got the mono connection, I guess, from his roots. Although I won't get into that as much in the comic. What I'm currently doing is a little little story arc where it's actually about Noah, one of Noah's other bands, a Bon Jovi tribute band, and Ruth is, concerned about the insane Bon Jovi fans because, she's an insane U2 fan. So, pot, meet, kettle. Can't even tell if I'm picking anything up there, but... So, don't do a huge amount talking about U2 in the comic these days, but I did actually have the Thorsens go to Vegas last year when U2 had a residency there, and they did meet Bono. And that cartoon, I think, somewhere in the first week of November 2023. And, Noah wanted to take, like 1,000 selfies with Bono. Ruth was like pawing at him, going, I love you, I'll do anything for you, just say the word. And and he gets cut off at that point because the daughter Ursula then says, wait, you're from Ireland? Will you do my geography homework for me? Because she has a worksheet about Ireland, and if she can get an actual Irish person to do her work for her, you damn well bet she's gonna do that. Her teacher was not impressed. Because, Ursula forgot the whole thing about, what is obviously not her handwriting on the assignment. So she got a 0, which she was not thrilled with that. So now we're starting to get Noah developing. And I will at the end zoom in on the thing. Here we go. It's interesting when the detail work comes in now. I don't want to talk so much. Anyways, Noah closed mouth and all puckered up. Kind of fucked that line up. Oops, part of my French. I'm not gonna bleep that though. There we go. Earring. I think the future ones are going to have a much lower angle, and I'll just have to figure out how to arrange the camera. Kind of fun to get this brush technique going. Frankly, the brush technique looks a little bit like when I do printmaking, I do monotypes. Sometimes I get these kind of like fat and thin lines, but that's because they weren't that way when they were on the acrylic or plexiglass plate, but they get that way when they go through the press if you have a little too much ink. So anyways, it's kind of, I guess that makes it a unity of how that works. I'm going to do, on the iPad I actually, well, screw it, I'll just outline all the strands of his hair, sort of. Make things a little tidier. Usually I wouldn't, well, I do that when I do printmaking as well. So, just kind of tidies things up just that little bit. Maybe too much. There we go. And those kind of quick lines I like, but I think there's more efficient ways to do them if I can figure out the camera positioning. And the other detail with Noah is he is very hairy. Although strangely only really on the chest. Logically, if he was as hairy in the chest and belly as I draw him, then his arms would also be very furry, but ain't nobody got time to draw arm hair. So, here we go. There will probably be a cartoon about that at some point, where he is asked why he shaves his arms, and his comment will be something along the lines of, "A hairy chest makes a man virile, hairy arms makes him look like a chimpanzee." Actually, Noah probably gets his arms waxed when he goes to the salon to get his streaks put in his hair. Oops, did I say that? I mean, it's totally natural how he just happens to have the perfectly positioned gray streaks, but none other. There. Oh, and my finger's in the way when I'm drawing this. Ah! Well, if I do the whole Vlogmas, then I promise I will indeed figure out a better camera arrangement so y'all can see what I'm doing while I'm actually doing it. Yep. And the room goes silent as we come back to the lettering. Uh-oh. Well, I guess I talked enough in the first half for everything, right? But anyway, so yeah, the comic it's still going. I'm actually currently working on an anthology of, like, not even the first year, it's like the first 9 months of the comic. First 175. Only the thing that's holding it up is, so initially because I do the comic on Procreate, and there's like a font on there called Jack Armstrong BB, which is like perfect for cartooning. So I was using that. I'm assuming it's it's a font that comes with the program. Normally that means you have a license to use it for whatever. Well, see, here's the problem. It turns out you don't for that one. Just something I was actually getting ready in 2023 to prep an anthology, and just something set off my spidey senses. Like, you should look up what the license for that font is, if it's for commercial use or whatever, because it should be. But it turned out it wasn't. So I would have had to track down whoever designed that, do a separate license. Licenses, in that case, would probably be based on how many copies are sold. Anyways, it's going to be a nightmare. And the problem is I had done a year's worth of comics, so it's like I was doing it like 6 days a week at that point. So that meant that I had like 300 and some odd. So that was a problem. And I realized that the easiest solution would be to just go and re-letter them all. From that point on, that day forward, all the Noah's Archipelago I have lettered by hand. I mean, I draw it with an Apple Pencil on the iPad, so like it's kind of a pain in the butt, but that's fine, I can do it. But then I had these like 300 and some odd cartoons I had to re-letter, so that's what's been holding up the anthology. Yeah, so I think I'm into the 90s now in terms of re-lettering. Make that clear. That is his kneecap there. But I'm hoping to have, I mean, for this the first anthology, I'm only going to do like 175. So that means that I need to finish re-lettering. That's kind of what I'm going to be focusing on from now till like February, I guess. Try and get those all redone, and then I can take things into InDesign, and so I'm working on his little feet, and hopefully have the book done by sometime in April. So anyways, check your font, check your stuff, folks, check your stuff. And there we go. We are, oh, I guess I gotta, whatever he's resting his hand on, and I'll just, here, it kind of like puddles around on the floor. And, a little bit of shadow. So anyways, that's a project I'm working on for Noah, and I keep losing my train of thought so many times here. And I'm gonna call that good enough. Yay! How many? Feels like I've been talking for 3 hours. I don't think it's been that long, but it'll be the longest video. I mean, I'm not going to do a huge amount of editing on these YouTube versions of them. I'm just going to talk and cut heads and tails and slap my URLs up and whatnot. And then at the end, excuse me as I'm burping because of my fizzy water that I was drinking. I'm just going to stick that in the water off screen. We are going to, oh yeah, I should sign this, right? Excuse my shoulder as I reach for a pen over here. Should I sign it by his butt? Let's sign it by his butt. I gotta turn this around. Well, I can actually stop the, yay, stop the phone version. Now I can, it's one of these sort of dealies. I have to get it up out of the way so it doesn't hit me in the face, so I lean in to do this. Ta-da! Finished. And now we're gonna zoom in, and there's probably like 10 stories that I started telling in the midst of this that I never finished. Oh yeah, there's a little rubber band at the top of the drawing board that holds things. Stay. All right, let's zoom in, shall we? Yep, well, that's kind of zooming into the money shot, I guess. I think that might be zoomed in a little more than I can focus. There we go. I think that's better for focusing. So, there we go. Here, Ruthie. There's Mistletoe Bowl. Come and get your Christmas magic. I have a feeling Ruth might be a little bit tired of Christmas magic, although maybe not. You know? She loves Bono. She has a Bono impersonator husband. Granted, he's not, you know what he'd have to do? He'd have to put on the sunglasses, and then she'll be all about coming to get the Christmas magic. But, sunglasses and shiny black leather pants. But, I guess it's not her night of the week, right? It's his night of the week. So he can wear whatever he wants. So anyways, there we go! First Vlogmas. Hopefully I'll get some stuff sorted out. Probably in future ones, because I can adjust that. I'll probably do something more along the lines of that. And then just put the camera up so it's more of an angle down. Like, excuse the wobbling. This is going to, on the tripod, that's silly. Probably be more of an angle like that. Yeah, that should still work, right? Anyways, we'll do something like this angle for the next one. And Lord knows it may eventually end up where they're all flat the way I'm used to drawing. And we go from there. But there you have it. There's Noah. Obviously, he would normally be flesh-colored. But if I pan over... excuse the mess. Ain't no flesh color in there. And I am way too lazy to mix one. Next time I'm at Michael's, I'm going to see if they have a flesh-colored, or a peach kind of skin colory kind of ink. And I should probably look for some pink that isn't metallic. Whoops, shimmery. I do have this one, but that's... Now, if he's doing, like, if he were to start singing in a Duran Duran tribute band, Duran Duran in the 80s wore makeup, so, but I don't think Noah would take it this far. He seems more like a chapstick kind of guy, so we need a pink that's that sort of pink, but not metallic for when he's puckering up. But we will leave it for now. No flesh color, no lip pinky pink. So there we have it. Day 1 of Vlogmas. Yay! Anyways, thanks for watching. I've blabbed on and taken enough time. Tune in again tomorrow so I can take more of your time, and we will be on to Ricky B. the Rock and Roll Rat.